Hey guys, welcome back to Mimir. Today's episode is extra special because I just got home from the Manifest conference. For those of you who don't know, Manifest is a supply chain and logistics conference focused on innovation. I've been talking about it on the podcast for a couple months now, just sort of seeding the idea that I was actually going, but I literally just got home. I just wrote down the script for this episode. I want to brain dump my experience for you guys. This is my first time attending literally any conference, let alone a huge industry conference like Manifest. It sounds stupid, but I didn't even realize you could go to conferences as a podcaster. But I heard about Manifest through work and thought it would be a perfect opportunity to A, find up and coming startups in the industry, and B, get some incredible tips and insights for all my D2C retail companies. I came to this conference experience with a mix of excitement, curiosity, and nerves. I knew it would be a great opportunity to network, learn, and grow, not just for Mimir, but for myself as well. Any founder knows that the best opportunity to gain early traction is through field events. It's real-time feedback from your target audience to validate product market fit, and it's also chock full of surprising learning opportunities. So in this episode, I want to share my experience, the good, the bad, and the awkward, so you can learn from me for your next event. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the pre-planning process, what actually happened, both the wins and surprises at the conference, what I do differently next time, and my biggest takeaways for anyone considering attending their first big conference. Let's dive in. I want to start with the planning phase and how I prepped for Manifest. Obviously, I wasn't going into this without a strategy. Conferences are only worth what you put into it, and I wanted to make the most out of it, which meant 1, pre-scheduling meetings. I didn't just show up the first day hoping for the best. About a month out from the conference, I used the conference's networking app to reach out to people in advance. I sent probably 50 messages and made 25 connections, not knowing if anyone would reply. I sent messages to people I knew would respond, and those who were totally like me shooting for the moon, aka the founder of Thistle. And then I did a ton of follow-up. So for those people who didn't respond on the app, I connected with them on LinkedIn, either by interacting with their Manifest content or like literally just sending a cold DM. And it's wild to me how many professionals really use LinkedIn. Again, probably a really stupid thing to say, but genuinely, LinkedIn is a foreign platform to me. So I'm really trying to get better about using it. I hear from so many founders that it's an incredible platform for their business. So trying to get into it. If you guys have any tips, let me know. But if the person I was trying to message didn't respond on LinkedIn, I would check the conference agenda to see if they were speaking at any panels and add those sessions to my schedule. So like if they weren't going to respond online, I was going to make sure to chat with them in person by literally stalking them at the conference. Which brings me to planning my days. I fully mapped out my schedule based on sessions, networking events, and like leaving some open time slots where I could make spontaneous connections. And this was probably one of the more successful things that I did. Conferences are all about networking in person, obviously, especially with executives, and a lot of them are not using the apps. So the only way that I really could get in front of them was to like literally stalk their panels or try to create opportunities where I would be around them, because like they're also not hanging out at their company's booths if they even have a booth at all. So you have to get creative and finding ways to like really connect with people that you're trying to get to. The other thing that I did ahead of time was content plans. So I brainstormed ideas for Mimir, everything from what content I could use to seed my Slack channel community to what would make great sound bites to ask founders if I found myself in awkward networking scenarios. I even made a list of ideal guests and created tailored pitches for them based on panels they were talking at or interesting tidbits about their company or like shit they posted online. And also I should mention, as part of being a media partner for Manifest, I had to create content for them as well. So you guys heard already the episode that I did with Katie Date, their SVP of Industry Relations, and I also had to create some social media posts for them, but that was all on the aside. The other key thing that I did to plan in advance for Manifest was focus on goal setting. I wanted to have tangible KPIs to see if this is something I wanted to continue doing for Mimir, meaning like, is it driving towards my yearly business goals? So my main focus for this conference was networking. I wanted to have 15 high-quality meetings leading to booking guests. Ideally, that would be 15 guests plus connections to their networks for other guest opportunities, meaning like not just being like you solely are going to be booked for a meeting. It's more like I connected with you, we had a great conversation, and now I feel comfortable reaching out to you to then ask if there's anybody else in your network that you would recommend for Mimir. And I think I got 10 meetings probably. out of this, not the full 15, which actually 10 was my original goal. But before the conference even started, I had 4 meetings booked and I had a game plan. So I upped my goal to 15. In talking to my boss at my 9 to 5, 15 is just like a really high goal, apparently. And to even have just gotten close to achieving that goal, I think is a really big testament to the amount of work that I put in ahead of time. And I was very proud of meeting and of like meeting my original goal of 10 meetings. So I felt really good about that. My secondary goal was seeing what exciting companies were booming in the supply chain space and learning as much as I could on behalf of you guys so that I could share that knowledge here. And then the third goal I wanted to focus on was just to simply like get a feel for how in-person events could benefit my work. So let's talk about what worked and what I would change next time. What worked for the pre-planning process is like obviously pre-scheduling meetings was a game changer. Walking into the conference, I already had conversations lined up, took a lot of the pressure off. I felt really confident that people were interested in what I had to offer. So it gave me the boost I needed to feel like I belonged and like I had a seat at the table. Also, having some pre-planned talking points, a list of ideal founders that I really wanted to meet just made me feel really prepared. Like nothing genuinely was going to get in the way this time, not even myself. What I would change, I wish I had started using LinkedIn ages ago. I think founders really like LinkedIn and it could have gotten me endorsed faster and given me even more credibility if I had focused on LinkedIn as a social channel rather than Instagram or TikTok. But I feel like that's a whole other can of worms that I'm not really going to get into in this episode, but it's maybe something that I'll explore later on. So now that we talked a little bit about like how the pre-planning went for the conference, I want to talk about the execution phase and the actual experience I had at the conference. So again, I had no idea what I was getting into. And I remember I was literally on my way to the conference in my Uber on the first day. And I was just thinking that I really wanted to go in there and not put too much pressure on myself. Already, I put way too much pressure on myself for literally everything in my life. And I had done so much work to prep that all I wanted at that point in time was to just go into the conference, do my best, and also not feel like I needed to impress anybody. I think that type of energy comes off as like desperation. And I felt just really confident that I had something to offer and that I could just go in and genuinely be myself and find success that way. I could talk about the experience for hours because there was so much that happened over the last 3 days, but I am just going to break down the highlights for you guys. So, day to day, from thought provoking panels to chance encounters with founders who are tackling problems I'm passionate about, Manifest truly delivered. Day 1 was mostly about strategic networking for me. The expo hall didn't open till Tuesday, so I spent all Monday in meetings or attending panels and like stalking speakers afterwards to chat with them and make plans for podcast recordings. I was handing out business cards left and right, but like I also want to point out that I wasn't just like handing them out willy-nilly. It was really more strategic about like, oh, I think this person's really interesting, or they could connect me to someone who is really interesting in their network. So I really want to make sure that they have my business card. And business cards are so underrated. Nobody uses them anymore. And to have one, especially like mine, that's, lavender, beautifully executed, like stunning queen chic, I think really makes an impact on people's day. And that's something that they're going to remember. So then day 2, I was really excited because I had back-to-back meetings booked, including some super exciting labels like Thistle and Daily Harvest. That was just like a wild experience in and of itself to have those labels be interested in me. It felt very validating and I'm super excited. I really, really hope it works out for you guys. Anyway, this was also the first day that the expo hall was open. So in between meetings, I made sure to run around the floor and check out the other cool companies. There were also a ton of activation moments like coffee bars, robots running around, a literal giant truck in the middle of the expo hall. There's also tons of cool swag lying around. So I had to go and make sure that I picked up some stuff that I was really into, like a custom hat. That was dope. And then later that night on day 2, I also attended my 9 to 5 jobs happy hour to continue networking the night away. And then by day 3, it was pretty chill. My flight was leaving early in the afternoon, so I had one meeting and then walked around the expo hall a little bit more and attended the women's networking lunch, which was sort of like the last big ticket item that I really wanted to have on my list of things that I accomplished. Speaking of networking, I had some incredible conversations, and this is really the meat of the value of Manifest. I chatted a lot with founders who are innovating in a stagnant industry, and I met with a balance of big name brands and also up and coming startups. Like, obviously, I want to make sure that I give you guys a decent mix of seasoned advice and also relatable tips from founders in early stages. Networking. Where do I even start? I think putting myself out there, asking for what I want, and pitching Mimir isn't something that comes very easily to me. I really had to step out of my comfort zone to make the most of this event. And if I hadn't taken some of the chances that I did, I would have been kicking myself right now. So I was really proud that I marched right up to people I thought were interesting, told them that their insights were fascinating, introduced myself, and straight up asked if they'd be interested in being a guest on the podcast. This tactic was uncomfortable for me at first, but it landed me some pretty exciting names that I cannot wait to have on this podcast. I'm not going to name any names since they haven't officially booked the interview yet because I literally talked to them 2 days ago. But let's just say it'll be really insane to me if they actually book on the podcast. And I'm just really excited to see what 2025 brings from Mimir. I think it's going to be an amazing year. I'm not going to lie. If you guys are thinking about using a lot of these tactics for your next conference, I think you obviously should. But I do also want to preface that having a podcast makes these asks so much easier. Everyone wants free press, so it's rare that someone truly isn't interested in being on the podcast. Knowing that made it a little bit easier to handle the potential no that I would get from someone, but I still encourage all of you to take chances for your business and chat with somebody that you want to connect with. Even if it's not an immediate ask, just getting their business card gets your foot in the door later down the line for more creative, email nurture sequences or any sort of other ways that you can chat them up, which will eventually lead to the ask that you want. Key takeaways for the conference experience as a whole. One of my biggest takeaways was the power of preparation. It's not just about meeting a lot of people, it's about finding the right people. I had done my research ahead of time, so I knew who and what I was going after, and I refused to let myself down here. Quick side quest, I really want to emphasize the importance of keeping promises that you make to yourself and the power of making yourself proud. Coming from someone who always needed a lot of external validation, there's nothing that feels better than keeping a promise you made to yourself. Having someone hold you accountable is great, but holding yourself accountable, that's X Games mode. Okay, quick side quest over. The other key takeaway for me from the conference as a whole was to lean on ChatGPT. The best thing that you can do at a conference is to be memorable, literally take any positive chance to be remembered. And for me, that was always asking an insightful question to panelists. So during the sessions, I would give ChatGPT the prompt and some notes that I was taking. She would come up with options of questions to ask. And let me tell you, they almost always got answered. And I think that's something that people will remember you by is if you ask a really interesting question. Additionally, I used those prompts and ChatGPT to tailor my podcast pitch to the panelists after the session. This really helped me build confidence to talk to the panelists. I think a lot of people get insecure and think oh, what could I possibly talk to them about? But ChatGPT has got you covered. It really helped me at least, so I wanted to bring that up as a tip for you guys as well. I can't wait to see what all this hard work turns into for the podcast. At the end of the day, if nothing else comes of it, at least more people heard about the podcast and are interested in it. So for me, that's a win. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you guys. On day 2, I had such an exciting encounter. I was walking around the expo floor and I got a random notification through the app, which was a meeting request from an investor. And this was really cool. I was like, hell yeah, I'm obviously going to meet with them. And so I show up to the meeting zone and the investors were like, hey, it's really nice to meet you, blah, 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 introductions, etc. And she was like, why don't we go take this meeting from the puppy playpen? And I was like, obviously, yes. So we walked over to the puppy playpen. I was really excited about the fact that they reached out to me because one of my dreams from Mimir is to become a space where investors are coming to me to look for really exciting up and coming startups who need investment. If I can become the connection point between somebody's dreams and the financial ability for them to actually launch it and make the world a better place, then that is all I could ask for at the end of the day. And so this was such a dreams coming true moment for me because they're literally coming to me asking to collaborate in that kind of a capacity. So we just sort of met initially, got to know each other, very base level stuff, but it was definitely something that will lead into a more collaborative relationship down the line, which I was really, really excited about. Finally, let's talk about the post-conference reflections. So what I would do differently next time. Number 1 is more events. My antisocial ass didn't even consider going to other companies' happy hours. I assumed that they were all invite only. Wrong. There's a whole section on the app for community-led events. So I will definitely be researching happy hours based on companies I would like to connect with to attend at the next conference. However, I must note that this is not a situation where like staying out late is a good idea. Big learning lesson for me about conferences is that they tend to be a place where a lot of adults go to like let loose. And I mean loose. I was genuinely shocked by some of the behavior I saw after hours at these events, between like men being blatantly inappropriate due to overconsumption of alcohol, like people talking shit about their coworkers. It was just like genuinely insane to me. And maybe I'm naive, but I assumed that since this was all like a work thing, would be pretty tame, but it was anything but that after hours. So ladies, be smart, be aware, be careful. Men, don't do stupid shit. Like, this is a work event. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Okay, the other thing I would do differently next time is more pre-event outreach. I definitely saw the value of pre-scheduled meetings, so I'll double down on that and start reaching out to create connections even earlier than the 4 weeks ahead of time. Also, more time on the expo floor. In an ideal world, I probably should have spent more time asking people to tell me about their companies, like just going up to them cold and talking to them at their booths. But A, I was shy, and B, by the end of day 2, guys, I was so drained from being on all the time and having to focus and listen deeply to what people were telling me so I could come up with interesting replies, etc. By the time I got to the airport on Wednesday, I literally didn't even want to speak to like TSA. I just was so tired, but this is just something I was keeping in mind after the fact. The other thing I would do differently is smarter packing. I had no idea what I was getting into, and there were certainly things I did not pack accordingly. So during the conference, I literally started making a list of shit that I would bring next time. The first one is more outfits. I had more time in the mid-afternoon between like 4 and 6 p.m. time frame than I thought I would. I assumed that I would be going back to back to back, but I had some buffer time during those hours, and I think that makes sense because like no one wants to meet during lunch or dinner time. So I used this time to go back to the Airbnb and like refresh, take a shower, just sort of like let my brain calm down and recharge before I had to go to happy hours and dinners. So I didn't think that I would have time to go home and change. So like I didn't have a lot of other outfit choices. So I was legitimately outfit repeating. So this was definitely a big takeaway. The other thing is I would bring a much smaller water bottle. Like, you're not really carrying around a big purse, and I don't like to wear a backpack with some of my outfits. And I don't want to be schlepping around like a big ass tote all day, especially when transitioning my outfit from day to night. I didn't want to have just like one big purse. But obviously, I drink a lot of water, and so all my water bottles are like 30 ounces or more. So I think I would invest in a smaller water bottle, so then that way I could stay hydrated all day. The other thing is a portable phone charger. I didn't realize just how quickly my phone battery would drain. I thought I'd be using my iPad or my computer a lot more, but that was not the case. So definitely bring a portable phone charger. And I could not believe I forgot my hand sanitizer at home, you guys. Like, you're shaking hands all day, and the last thing I want to do is get sick. So remember, hand sanitizer. So now that we talked about what happened before and during the conference, what is coming next? Now, frankly, is when the real work begins. I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of all the shit that needs to get done after this conference. Most pressingly, I'll be following up with the amazing people I met who agreed to do interviews. I already hit some of them up right after I met with them to stay top of mind, but I definitely need to do more formal follow-up to actually get these interviews booked. I also need to creatively repurpose a lot of the content that I got from panels and talking to other companies and founders, for the Mimir Slack channel, for future episodes, for the community newsletter. Like, that in itself is days of work, and even like prepping this episode was something that I had to do as part of the post-conference process. Excitingly, though, I learned a bunch about what it takes to bring your company to a conference. Everything from sponsorship or attendee logistics to creating compelling moments. I'm taking everything I learned and applying it to Aura One's go-to-market strategy. If this is something you guys want me to do more of a deep dive in about, like, legitimately what goes into sponsoring a booth at one of these shows, I would be happy to do that. I do it for my 9 to 5 job, and it's an ass load of work, and I don't think a lot of people realize how complicated and convoluted the process is. So I'd be really happy to like do a legitimate deep dive into this if that's something that you are interested in. That was a lot of information about my experience, and I want to leave you guys with some of my top tips that you can apply this conference season if you are a first-time conference attendee or just a conference attendee in general. Number one, set clear goals. Are you going to get meetings, increase brand awareness, or scope out the competition? Each of these objectives dramatically change your strategy. So, in order to make the most of your time and money, you need to have these mapped out with corresponding KPIs, quality meetings, website traffic, research notes, etc. The other tip I would give is use the conference apps. Don't think that you can just go in there and skate by without any preparation. The apps are a great way to connect with attendees, but also build out your schedule based on your goals. Do not sleep on them. People use them, especially during the conference. And then make sure to balance sessions with networking. Don't just bounce from session to session, seminar to seminar. Connect with the panelists after in some way, shape, or form, but leave room for flexibility because some of the best opportunities happen when you don't expect them, and something will always come up. In conclusion, Manifest was an incredible experience. I'm incredibly proud of the work and the results that came out of my first ever conference experience. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to record this episode and to be able to reflect and plan for the future with all of you. If you've attended a conference before, I would love to hear about your experience. Comment below in the reviews what worked for you, what would you do differently. Also, if you guys want more, you can connect with me at my website, mimir.ink, or on my Instagram at hi_maddie_kelly. Join the Mimir community on my website to keep the conversation going. I'm always happy to chat. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next week.